It felt strange moving into that old house. I was only 15, and suddenly my life had shifted from the familiar to the eerie. My friend's family had just rented out the house that belonged to his late grandmother, and we had moved in. It was a 2-story mansion with an unsettling air about it, as if the house itself had stories it was reluctant to tell. From the moment we unpacked our things, there was an ever-present feeling of unease. The walls seemed to hold whispers of the past, and every creak of the floorboards felt like a voice trying to break free. The house was large, and while it had an old charm, it also had an oppressive quality that I couldn't quite shake. Every night, as I lay in bed, the sounds of the house settling and the rustle of the wind against the windows seemed to carry with them an unsettling presence. I couldn't help but feel that the memories of my friend's grandmother were still hanging in the air, casting a long shadow over the house. It was as if the old house was trying to hold on to its past, and we were merely intruders, destined to uncover something we weren't ready to face. As I made my way down those creaky stairs, the silence of the house seemed to grow heavier with each step. The night was oppressively still, and the only sound was the soft, eerie creak of the stairs beneath my feet. I was thirsty, but even in the dim light of the hallway, a sense of dread began to creep over me. The kitchen light flickered faintly as I approached, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe on the walls. Each flicker made the darkness more menacing, like something was hiding just beyond the edge of the light. My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. When I reached the kitchen, the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. I could barely make out the shapes of the furniture through the dim light, but something was off. The air felt colder, and a strange, metallic taste lingered in my mouth. I tried to push the feeling aside, convincing myself it was just the darkness playing tricks on me, but the tension in the air was palpable, and I couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of unease. The moment I stepped into the living room, my blood ran cold. There it was, a massive black German shepherd, its fur gleaming darkly in the dim light. But it wasn't just the size of the dog that struck me, it was its eyes. They glowed a haunting, unnatural red, cutting through the darkness with a malevolent intensity. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might burst from my chest. The dog's eyes were fixed on me, unblinking and filled with a predatory hunger. Its mouth hung open, drool dripping from its bared teeth, and the sight was both terrifying and inexplicable. The room seemed to spin as I tried to process what I was seeing. How could a creature so terrifying exist? It felt like a nightmare come to life, and every instinct screamed at me to run. I wanted to turn and flee, but my legs felt like lead. The fear was paralyzing, and the longer I stared into those glowing red eyes, the more I felt trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape from. I bolted up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest with every step. I threw open my parents' bedroom door, tears streaming down my face as I gasped out what I had seen. The sheer terror in my voice must have jolted them awake because they jumped out of bed immediately. We hurried back down the stairs together, and when we reached the living room, the air was thick, almost suffocating. It felt as if a heavy, oppressive presence had settled over the room. The darkness seemed to close in around us, making every corner of the room feel menacing and foreboding. My parents started praying fervently, their voices rising in intensity. They spoke in languages I didn't recognize, their words trembling with a desperation that matched my own fear. The sound of their prayers filled the room, but it did little to ease the sense of dread that clung to the air. Every shadow seemed to flicker and writhe, and the oppressive feeling remained, making the house feel like a prison from which there was no escape. A few days later, a member from our church came over to offer her help. When she stepped into our house, her reaction was immediate and visceral. She spoke gravely about dark entities and malevolent presences, confirming what we had feared, that something truly evil was lurking in our home. Her chilling words felt like a final, cold confirmation of our darkest suspicions. As she spoke, the oppressive atmosphere in the house grew even more unbearable. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in, suffocating us with their malevolence. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside seemed to carry an unseen weight, pressing down on us, making it impossible to breathe freely. We packed up our belongings as quickly as we could, trying to escape the suffocating darkness that had invaded our lives. When we finally left, it felt like a small, painful relief, but the memory of that red-eyed dog was burned into my mind. The image of its glowing eyes, full of malice and unspoken horrors, haunts my dreams and keeps me awake at night. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes, the things we encounter in the dark are far more terrifying than we could ever comprehend.